Bad Mechs, Hellfire, written by Sean of Sarna.net, the greatest wiki there is. Read by Shrapnel. Another explosion rocked MechWarrior Creedon's Hellfire as his star continued a fighting retreat. The Blood Spirits had launched their assault on York soon after the bulk of the Star Adder Toman had left to attack the Snow Ravens, leaving a contingent of Salama and second-line clusters to defend the planet. Both Creedon and his mech were past their prime by most clan standards. Creedon was 44, but if he counted back to when his Hellfire had started as a lupus, his mech was over 200 years old. Even the best Star Adder engineers hadn't been able to build out the quirks his ancient machine had acquired over its many decades of combat service. Throw in the electromagnetic interference from the new heavy lasers, and Creedon barely considered his mech combat capable. But fight he must. A Blood Spirit Zora bravely fired its autocannon at Creedon at just over 600 meters, its flechette round shaving armor off his Hellfire's jutting chest, but failing to find a breach. Creedon returned fire with his LRM Rex, the swarm of 30 missiles throwing up a cloud of dirt and smoke. Creedon didn't have time to determine whether his missiles had finished the small tank or not. He fired his 2 extended-range medium lasers into the cloud just to be sure, before turning to a new threat. A Crimson Langer came bounding over a crest, lasers firing wildly at the Star Adders below. With his missile rack reloading and his ER medium lasers rebuilding charge, Creedon switched his target interlock to fire his heavy lasers. Although powerful, the interference caused by the lasers' massive discharge shorted many of his mech systems. For this reason, Creedon tended to use the heavy lasers only as a last resort. Muttering a small prayer to the Great Father under his breath, Creedon pulled the trigger on his weapons. The green beam of the heavy large laser connected his Hellfire and the Blood Spirit Crimson Langer for a brief moment before a cloud of vaporized metal seemed to obscure his senses. The 2 other beams went wildly into the cloud as Creedon's HUD began to flicker. A warning light on his damage display confirmed internal damage to his sensors, yet he'd not taken a hit to any of the sensor cowlings covering his mech.
Stravak!
Creedon cursed. It was the damned lasers. He'd begged his technician to harden the Hellfire's electrical systems, and each time they'd assured him there was nothing more they could do. While he was cursing his technician, a beam from the Langer struck his Hellfire, disabling the ammo feeder for his missile racks. All 3 LRM-10 systems went dark on his wire display, and Creedon cursed again as he slammed the button that would eject his ammo stores. They were just a liability if they couldn't be fired, even worse than those damned heavy lasers. As the Crimson Langer closed, Creedon fired again with his full complement of lasers. His cockpit instantly became a sauna as the Hellfire's fusion engine revved to meet the energy demand of so much collimated light. Unfortunately, the massive energy discharge proved too much for his old machine. Creedon's HUD flickered, then went dark. Through the cockpit glass, he could see his 2 extended-range mediums strike the Crimson Langer dead in the chest. But his heavy lasers somehow all fired in separate directions. Worse, one of the medium-heavy laser tubes exploded as the heat spike melted its cooling sleeve. Recognizing a losing battle, Creedon considered an expeditious retreat, only to be thwarted by 2 things. First, a Blood Spirit Stooping Hawk had appeared on his flank and had fired enough autocannon rounds into his left torso to shatter his heavy large laser cowling. Second, his Hellfire's damage display revealed his mask system had failed along with his HUD during the energy surge caused by his accursed lasers. Creedon shouted in rage. It was more of his failing mech than the enemy.
No!
But he let his external speakers carry the sound as he charged into the Stooping Hawk's fire. There are many instances throughout human history where a weapon system was invented before it had a platform truly capable of supporting it. The atomic bomb is perhaps the best example. Ideally, the launching aircraft wants to be as far away as possible once the bomb detonates. but at the time of the bomb's invention, all that was available were relatively slow, high-altitude bombers. This resulted in the bomber still being within the shockwave radius when the bomb detonated, which, although not catastrophic for the crew, was certainly less than ideal. The Hellfire was likewise an unideal platform for a new weapon system. Clan Starradder invented the heavy laser at the end of the 3050s, but required a platform to put them to use. The solution was to refit mothballed first-generation Lupus Omni-Mechs, converted them into battle mechs, and load them up with a collection of new heavy lasers. The resultant mechs were extremely powerful, but also extremely temperamental. In 3058, Khan Cassius Nabuta ordered Lupuses to be refitted en masse to make use of the new heavy lasers, and tasked Kappa Provisional Galaxy Commander, Commander Jenica Turgidson, with overseeing the refit's development. Galaxy Commander Jenica Turgidson in turn imagined a large defensive heavy mech for second-line galaxies, resulting in a unit that was slower and far more heavily armed than the original Lupus on which the Hellfire is based. The original Hellfire was armed with one Series 4D2 heavy large laser, two Series 6A medium heavy lasers, and two Series 14K2 heavy small lasers. This assortment of heavy lasers was further augmented by two ER medium lasers, which had been in common use throughout the clans for over 2 centuries, and three Longbow 3 LRM-10 launchers for adequate long-range firepower. Even if the Hellfire were equipped with standard lasers, such a massive quantity of weapons would tax the 17 double heatsinks tasked with keeping the mech cool. Unfortunately, heavy lasers were vastly more heat-intensive than either the extended range or pulse varieties and massively overtaxed the Hellfire's cooling capacity. Worse, the new weapons also arrived with several known defects. Best known is the inaccuracy of the heavy lasers, thanks to the firing delay caused by the massive charge required in their operation. On top of that, the enormous discharge created electromagnetic interference which affected the firing mech's targeting systems. Sometimes, the heavy lasers simply blew up during combat, their focusing tubes unable to endure the incredible heat and vast power required in their operation. It would take a decade for Clan Goliath Scorpion to correct this shortcoming, although the improved heavy laser is still at risk of explosion should the focusing tube become damaged in combat. Intended for defense, input from Starradder mech warriors noted the Hellfire's 64 kph top speed as a detriment in running battles, and asked to improve the mech's engine. Unwilling to compromise on the Hellfire's weapons, Jenica Turgidson added mask to provide the Hellfire with a temporary running speed of 86 kph, albeit in short bursts. 9 tons of ferrofibrous armour provided adequate protection, while a standard 240 engine gave the mech tremendous staying power, even in the face of damage that would disable most Clan Omni-Mechs. However, the addition of mask to the platform resulted in another unforeseen detriment, either due to the age of the Lupus chassis or interference from the heavy lasers. Hellfire mask systems saw a 15% greater failure rate than other mechs. Starradder engineers attempted to solve this issue after the Hellfire's adoption, but were unsuccessful. Thus, Hellfire pilots are informed to use the acceleration signal circuitry sparingly or in dire circumstances. The Hellfire would develop 2 alternate versions throughout its lifespan. The Hellfire 2 served as a testbed for the Advanced Tactical Missile System in the late 3060s. The mech would retain the heavy large and heavy medium lasers, replace the heavy small lasers with a single ER small laser, and replace the LRM-10 launchers with 2 ATM-6s. The mech would also forego mask in favour of 300XL engine, providing a top speed of 86 kph without the possibility of Myanmar failure. The Hellfire 3 was developed through an alliance with Hell's Horses, which sought to refit the machine to perform dedicated support for its conventional forces. This saw the mech's weapons stripped in favour of 2 ER flamers, 2 regular flamers, 2 SRM-6s, and 4 plasma cannons. These provided an unparalleled ability to eliminate infantry and conventional vehicles whilst being somewhat vulnerable to opposing mechs. The 240 standard engine was replaced by an extra light version, and the mask system was retained. The Hellfire story stops with the War of Reaving. The adders are understood to have eventually secured total control of Arcadia, but it is unknown whether the factory that produced them continues to refit Lupuses. Even if it did, the potential number of Hellfires could never exceed the total number of viable Lupus Omnimechs, which among the home clans is believed to be extremely limited. With such limited numbers and a reputation for being both a hangar queen and battlefield volatility, it seems likely that the Hellfire met its end at some point within the last half-century. Perhaps examples remain among the Hell's Horses, but those are likely to be few and far between. Well, hello everyone, Shrapnel here. I hope you enjoyed the Hellfire story. I've never played the Hellfire, I've looked it up on paper, and to be honest, for a 60-tonner it seems not that great. I mean, comparable to Innersphere mechs, I would probably still take it because you have the chance of doing some heavy damage. So it's got large heavy laser, 2 medium heavy lasers. Combine those up, that is 36 points of damage, before you even get to any of your long-range LRM-10s or your secondary weapons. The only problem with that, 18 heat for the large heavy laser, 7 heat for the 2 medium lasers, that's 32 heat in total. If you fired just those 3 weapons, you've got 34 heat sinks. So you add a run in there, you're capping out already. Plus, you've got to think about your gunnery skill, because obviously you've got your +1 to hit with the heavy lasers. I don't know what to think about this mech. I kind of like it, but then again, I'm kind of a Comstar Word of Blake player, and I like to take my chances with big, heavy weapons. And I like lots of weapons, and this has big, heavy weapons, and it has lots of weapons. I mean, if you alpha striked in this thing, you're going to blow up. It's going to be, 18, 32, 37, 42, 45, 48, 52, 56, 60. So if you alpha striked in this, 60 heat, not including movement or anything else from last turn. Now, you may notice that the standard heat chart only goes up to 30, but I know in tactical operations there's an advanced heat effects chart, which goes up to 50, I think. You're not even going to hit that. The problem with this as well, you have ammo. You're going to cook yourself, and you're going to have to roll to avoid ammo explosions on a 6+ at 18 overheat, which you could do quite easily with this. All you got to do is fire your heavy lasers and move, and you're almost there. I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. But what about you guys? I'm sure some of you guys have run this. Sure, some of you guys love it. I'm sure some of you hate it. Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to run one of these in Mega Mech and just see how it goes. I'm going to recreate the battle in this story. I reckon I can do okay with this thing, but we'll see. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who volunteers at Sarna, and Sean, particularly Sean, for writing these stories to keep us entertained. Because I would never have looked at this mech. I'm not a big clan player, and I probably would have just breezed over a 60-tonner that goes 4.6. But I'm going to give it a go. Let's see what happens. Remember kids, there's another Bad Mech next month, so stay tuned for more. I've been Shrapnel, this has been Bad Mechs. Go visit Sarna and learn something new. Let me know what you find out, by the way, because I always love a good rabbit hole. And trust me, I go down many. Until then everyone, stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. I've been Shrapnel. Bye.